The silver ship moved through space like a ghost. It had no sound, no light, and no one on the planet below knew it was there. Inside the ship, tall gray beings with large black eyes watched the blue and green world spin slowly beneath them. HFY pressed his long fingers against the viewing screen. His kind had been traveling between stars for thousands of years, but this planet was special. It had life. Not just plants and small creatures, but big ones that walked on two legs and used tools. "Look at them," said his helper, Vental. She pointed at the screen where it showed a group of humans walking through a forest. They hit things with sticks. They make loud noises with their mouths, just like the beasts on our home world. HFY nodded slowly. The creatures did look primitive. They covered their bodies with animal skins and plant fibers. They carried sharp stones tied to long sticks. When they opened their mouths, only strange sounds came out, grunts and barks and other meaningless noise. "The council will be pleased," HFY said. "A new world with fresh game. These beasts will make excellent prey for our hunters." Far below on the planet, Dr. Lisa Martinez sat in her small office in Montana. She worked alone most days, listening to radio signals from space. Her job was to find patterns in the static and noise that came from the stars. Most people thought her work was boring, but Lisa loved it. Today, something was different. Her computer showed waves and lines that did not look normal. The signals had a rhythm to them, like music or math. Lisa frowned and played the recording, again. The pattern was too perfect to be natural. She picked up her phone and called her friend Kevin Walsh, who worked for NASA. "Kevin, I need you to look at something. I think we might have found something big." In the woods 50 miles away, Jake Thompson walked his daily path through the national park. Jake had been a forest ranger for 15 years. He knew every tree, every rock, every animal sound in these mountains. But today he heard something new. A low humming noise came from above the trees. Jake looked up but saw only blue sky and white clouds. The sound lasted for maybe 10 seconds, then stopped. Jake wrote it down in his notebook. Strange things had been happening lately. Other rangers reported weird lights in the sky and animals, acting scared. Jake finished his walk and drove back to the ranger station. He found his boss, Captain Amy Foster, doing paperwork at her desk. "Amy, we need to talk," Jake said. "I heard that humming sound again. And yesterday I found some trees that looked burned, but there was no fire." Amy looked up from her papers. She had heard similar reports from rangers in other parks: missing hikers, strange sounds, animals running away from certain areas. Each report by itself seemed normal, but together they made a pattern. "Write it all down," Amy told Jake. "I'm going to call the state police. Maybe they know what's going on." High above them, the alien ship continued its silent watch. HFY and his team had been studying the humans for 3 months now. They had learned that the creatures lived in groups and worked together to find food. They built shelters and made fire. They even seemed to care for their young and old, but these were just animal behaviors. Many creatures on many worlds did the same things. The important question was whether these beings could think like the Zephyrians could think. Could they solve problems? Could they create art? Could they understand the universe around them? The answer seemed to be no. The humans never built anything complex. They never looked at the stars with instruments. They never sent signals into space. They just wandered around making noise and hitting things with sticks. "Commander Zephnal wants to begin the hunt tomorrow," Vental told HFY. "He says we have studied these beasts long enough." HFY felt uneasy but could not say why. Something about the humans bothered him. The way they moved their hands when they made sounds. The way they looked at things and pointed. The way they seemed to plan their actions before doing them. "Very well," he said finally. "Choose a hunting ground far from their large settlements. We do not want to take too many at once." The next morning, Ryan Clark led a group of 6 people into the deep woods for a camping trip. Ryan was an outdoor guide who knew these mountains well. With him were Beth Adams, a teacher who loved nature, and 4 friends who wanted adventure. They hiked for hours until they found a perfect spot near a clear stream. The group set up their tents and made a fire. They cooked food and told stories as the sun went down. None of them knew that eyes were watching from the sky above. Pete Johnson, one of the campers, was an engineer who fixed machines for a living. He loved being in the woods because it was quiet and peaceful. No computers, no phones, no problems to solve. Just trees and birds and clean air. As Pete sat by the fire, he noticed something odd. The birds had stopped singing. The insects had gone quiet. Even the wind seemed to have stopped blowing. Pete looked around, but everything appeared normal. "Hey, Ryan," Pete said quietly. "Do you hear that?" "Hear what?" Ryan asked. "Nothing." "That's the problem. Everything just got really quiet." Before Ryan could answer, a bright light filled the clearing. The light was so strong that all the campers had to cover their eyes. When the light faded, they found themselves surrounded by tall gray figures holding strange glowing weapons. The aliens looked at the humans like a person might look at wild animals in a zoo. Interesting, but not dangerous. The humans made loud noises with their mouths and moved their arms around, but the aliens paid no attention to these meaningless gestures. Within minutes, all 6 humans were unconscious and loaded onto the alien ship. The camping gear was left behind as if the people had simply vanished into the night. High above the earth, Kethvar watched the new specimens being placed in holding areas. They would be perfect for the hunting preserve, large enough to be challenging, prey but clearly not intelligent enough to be a real threat. The hunt would begin soon. 3 days passed before anyone noticed that Ryan Clark and his group were missing. The park rangers expected them back on Tuesday, but Tuesday came and went with no sign of the campers. Jake Thompson volunteered to lead the search. He took 2 other rangers and followed the trail the group had used. They found the campsite easily enough. The tents were still there, and the fire pit had cold ashes. But there were no people anywhere. "This is strange," Jake said to his partner, Maria Santos. Maria was a survival expert who helped train new rangers. She could track animals and read signs in the wilderness better than anyone Jake knew. Maria knelt down and looked at the ground around the campsite. "The footprints just stop," she said. 6 people were here, then suddenly nothing. No signs of a struggle, no blood, no torn clothes, they just disappeared. Jake called Captain Amy Foster on his radio. "Amy, we found their camp, but something is very wrong here. Can you send more people?" Within an hour, Marine Sergeant Danny Cooper arrived with a full search team. Danny was on leave from the military and volunteered to help when he heard about the missing campers. He brought his friend Tony Phillips, who worked as a tracker for the local police. The team spread out and searched the entire area. Tony found something that made everyone stop and stare. About 50 yards from the campsite, the trees were burned in a perfect circle. But the burn marks were not black like fire damage. They were silver and smooth, as if the wood had been melted by intense heat. "I have never seen anything like this," Tony said. He touched the silver marks carefully. The metal was still warm 3 days later. Danny Cooper took pictures with his camera and sent them to his commanding officer. He had seen strange weapons in the military, but nothing that could do this to trees. While the search team worked in Montana, Dr. Lisa Martinez sat in her laboratory looking at more radio signals. The patterns were getting stronger and more complex. She had been working for days to decode them, and finally she found something that made her heart race. The signals contained mathematics. Perfect, beautiful mathematics that could only come from intelligent minds. Lisa called her friend Dr. Kevin Walsh at NASA immediately. "Kevin, you need to get here right now," Lisa said into the phone. "I think someone is trying to talk to us." Kevin drove through the night to reach Lisa's lab in Montana. When he saw the patterns on her computer screen, he could barely believe his eyes. The signals showed prime numbers, geometry, and even simple physics equations. "This is first contact," Kevin whispered. "We are not alone." But as they studied the signals more carefully, Kevin and Lisa realized something terrible. The mathematical messages were not trying to communicate with Earth. They were reports being sent somewhere else. Reports about Earth and the creatures that lived on it. "They are studying us," Lisa said, "like scientists studying animals in a zoo." Far above the Earth, the captured humans woke up in a strange white room. The walls glowed with soft light, and the air smelled clean but wrong somehow. Pete Johnson was the first to sit up and look around. "Where are we?" asked Beth Adams. She was scared but trying to stay calm. "I do not know," Pete said, "but we are not in the woods anymore." The 6 humans were in a large cell with no windows and only one door. The door had no handle on their side. Pete walked to the walls and touched them. They felt warm and seemed to vibrate slightly. Ryan Clark checked on the other campers. Everyone was unhurt but confused. "The last thing I remember was that bright light," he said. Then nothing. Pete was an engineer, so he studied everything in the room carefully. The walls were made of some kind of metal he had never seen before. The light came from panels in the ceiling that had no visible power source. Even the air they breathed was being pumped in through tiny holes he could barely see. "This technology is way beyond anything we have on Earth," Pete said quietly to Ryan. "Whoever built this is much more advanced than us." Outside their cell, Kethavar watched the humans through a viewing screen. The creatures were moving around and making their mouth noises at each other. Sometimes they pointed at things. Sometimes they touched the walls. "See how they explore their environment," Kethavar said to Vental. "They are curious about their surroundings." "All animals are curious," Vental replied. "It helps them survive. These beasts are no different from the others we have hunted." But Kethavar was not so sure anymore. He had been watching humans for months now, and their behavior was more complex than he first thought. They seemed to work together in ways that suggested planning. They used tools and combinations that showed problem solving. Most interesting of all, they seemed to communicate with each other using their mouth sounds in very sophisticated ways. Different sounds appeared to have different meanings. The creatures could make one sound, and other creatures would respond with specific actions. This looked very much like language. Kethavar decided to run a test. He activated a section of the wall that would become transparent from his side, but remain solid from theirs. Now he could observe the humans more closely without them knowing. What he saw amazed him. The human called Pete was studying the walls and ceiling in a systematic way. He would touch something, then make sounds to the others. The other humans would listen and nod their heads. Then they would touch the same spots and make sounds back to Pete. They were sharing information. They were teaching each other about their prison. Pete discovered that some parts of the wall were different from others. Near the door, he found a section that felt cooler and vibrated differently. He spent an hour examining it carefully while the others watched and asked questions. "I think this might be some kind of control panel," Pete told the group. "If I can figure out how it works, maybe we can get out of here." Kethavar watched in growing amazement as Pete began to map out the electronic systems hidden inside the walls. The human had no tools except his hands and eyes, but he was conducting a scientific investigation of alien technology. No mere animal could do this. For the first time since arriving at this planet, Kethavar began to wonder if his people had made a terrible mistake. What if the creatures they planned to hunt were not animals at all? What if they were intelligent beings who deserved the same respect as any sapient species? The thought frightened him more than he wanted to admit. Dr. Lisa Martinez had not slept for 2 days. She sat in front of her computer screens with coffee cups scattered around her desk. The alien signals were becoming clearer, and what she was learning made her stomach hurt with worry. Dr. Kevin Walsh arrived with a team of scientists from NASA and the military. Among them was Sergeant Lisa Parker, who worked with radio communications for the Air Force. Lisa Parker was an expert at breaking codes and understanding enemy messages. "Show us what you have found," Kevin said. Lisa Martinez played the decoded signals on her speakers. The room filled with strange musical sounds that rose and fell in complex patterns. But underneath the music were numbers and equations that told a frightening story. "They are not trying to talk to us," Lisa Martinez explained. "These are reports about Earth and everything that lives here. Look at this section." She pointed to part of the signal on her screen. "This talks about our cities, our population, and our technology level. They have been studying us for months." Sergeant Lisa Parker studied the patterns carefully. "This part here looks like mission orders. Something about establishing a preserve and beginning collection activities." Collection of what? Kevin asked, though he was afraid he already knew the answer. Us, Lisa Martinez said quietly. They think we are animals. They want to use Earth as some kind of hunting ground. At that moment, Lisa Martinez's computer made a beeping sound. A new signal was coming in, but this one was different. It was much weaker and seemed to be coming from somewhere closer than the other signals. Lisa Parker grabbed headphones and listened carefully. This is not the same as the others. This signal is rough and broken, like someone is trying to send a message but does not have the right equipment. The signal lasted only 30 seconds before it stopped. But in those 30 seconds, they heard something that changed everything. Mixed in with the alien sounds were human voices, faint and distorted but definitely human. Someone is alive up there, Kevin whispered. Someone is trying to contact us. On the alien ship, Pete Johnson sat next to a wall panel he had been working on for hours. His fingers were sore from touching and pressing different parts of the smooth surface. Finally, something had responded to his touch. A section of the wall had opened to show wires and circuits inside. Pete could not understand the alien technology, but electronics were electronics. Power flowed through circuits. Signals traveled along wires. The basic principles had to be similar. "What are you doing?" asked Carl Evans, one of the other campers. Carl had worked as a radio operator in the Army before becoming a teacher. "I'm trying to find their communication system," Pete said. "If I can access it, maybe I can send a message to Earth." Beth Adams kept watch at the door while Pete and Carl worked. Ryan Clark helped by describing what he saw when Pete touched different components. The other two campers, Helen Ross and Steve Miller, worked on making tools from pieces of their clothes and shoes. After many failed attempts, Pete found something promising. When he touched two wires together, lights began flashing on a panel across the room. The lights flashed in patterns that looked like the alien language they had been hearing through the walls. "That might be their communication array," Carl said. "In the Army, our radio systems had similar status lights." Pete was very careful as he connected more wires. He did not want to break anything or set off alarms. Slowly, he began to understand how the alien system worked. It used energy patterns instead of electric current, but the basic idea was the same. Finally, Pete managed to activate what looked like a transmission system. Carl helped him adjust the controls while the others watched for guards. "I am going to try to send a message to Earth," Pete whispered. "Carl, help me remember the emergency frequency that NASA uses." Working together, Pete and Carl sent a short burst transmission toward Earth. The message contained their names, their location as best they could guess, and a warning about the aliens' plans. They also included technical information about the alien ship that might help Earth defend itself. The transmission lasted only seconds before Pete had to disconnect everything and hide the evidence. But those few seconds were enough. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Martinez nearly fell out of her chair when she heard Pete's voice coming through her speakers. The message was broken and full of static, but she could understand enough to know that humans were alive on the alien ship. "My God," Kevin said. "They got through to us." Sergeant Lisa Parker was already on her phone calling her commanding officers. Within an hour, General Rick Taylor arrived with a team of military experts and scientists. General Taylor was a calm man who had dealt with many crises during his career. But nothing had prepared him for this situation. "Are you telling me that aliens have kidnapped American citizens and plan to use our planet as a hunting preserve?" "Yes, sir," Lisa Parker said. "And we have maybe days or weeks before they start their hunting operation." The general looked at the evidence. The alien signals, the missing campers, the strange burn marks in the forest, and now the message from space. Everything pointed to the same impossible conclusion. "We need to make contact with these aliens," General Taylor said. "We need to prove that humans are intelligent beings who deserve respect, not animals to be hunted." Dr. Lisa Martinez nodded. "We have been working on a response message, something that will show them we can think and reason and create." "How long do you need?" the general asked. "Give us 12 hours, Kevin said. "We will prepare a message that no intelligent species could ignore." Meanwhile, on the alien ship, Kethvar was having his own crisis. He had been watching the humans for days now, and their behavior was nothing like what he expected from animals. The human called Pete had somehow accessed their communication system. No animal could do that. It required understanding of complex technology and the ability to solve problems through logic and experimentation. Even more disturbing, the humans were working together in sophisticated ways. They had assigned different jobs to different individuals. They planned their actions carefully. They even posted guards while others worked. This was not animal behavior. This was intelligence. Kethvar knew he had to tell Commander Zephnal what he had discovered. But he also knew the commander would not want to hear it. The hunting preserve was already being prepared. Rich Zephyrians had paid enormous amounts of money for the chance to hunt exotic prey on a new world. If the humans were truly intelligent, then everything would have to stop. The Zephyrian Council would be furious. Careers would be destroyed. The entire expedition would be considered a failure. But if they continued with the hunt, they would be committing genocide against a sapient species. Kethvar stared at the viewing screen showing the human prisoners. Pete was back at work on the wall panel, trying to send another message to his home world. The determination and intelligence in the humans' actions were impossible to deny. The time for truth had come. Dr. Lisa Martinez stood in front of the largest radio antenna in Montana. Behind her, a team of scientists and military officers waited nervously. In her hands was a message that could save or doom the human race. "Are you ready?" asked General Rick Taylor. Lisa nodded and activated the transmission system. The message began with simple mathematics. 2 plus 2 equals 4. The square root of 16 is 4. Pi equals 3.4159. Then it moved to more complex ideas. The golden ratio, prime numbers, basic physics equations about gravity and light. But the message did not stop with mathematics. Dr. Nancy Wright, a professor of languages, had helped create the second part. This section used music and art to show human creativity. It included recordings of Mozart and Beethoven, images of paintings and sculptures, and even poetry translated into mathematical patterns. The final part of the message was the most important. It was a simple question. Are you intelligent beings, like us? Can we talk to each other as equals? The transmission lasted 10 minutes and used more power than the entire city of Helena used in a day. When it finished, everyone stood quietly and waited. On the alien ship, Kethvar received the message in his laboratory. As he watched the mathematical proofs appear on his screens, his hands began to shake. The creatures they had been planning to hunt had just solved complex equations and demonstrated knowledge of advanced physics. But it was the music that convinced him completely. The sounds were beautiful and emotional in ways that no animal could create. Only intelligent minds could make art that touched the soul like this. Kethvar knew he had to act quickly. He activated his personal communicator and called Commander Zephnal. "Commander, we must stop the hunting operation immediately," Kethvar said when Zephnal answered. "Why?" "The preparations are almost complete. Our clients will arrive tomorrow to begin their hunt." "The humans are not animals, Commander. They are intelligent beings. They just sent us a mathematical proof followed by artistic expressions. They are trying to communicate with us." There was silence on the communicator for several seconds. Then, Commander Zephnal spoke in a cold voice. "You are mistaken, Kethvar. You have been studying these beasts too long and you are seeing things that are not there. Animals cannot do mathematics. But I have the proof right here on my screens. They sent us prime numbers and physics equations. They asked if we can communicate as equals." "Impossible," Zephnal said. "Show me this so-called proof." Kethvar transmitted the human message to the commander's quarters. While they waited, he watched the human prisoners in their cell. Pete was working on the communication panel again, while the others helped and kept watch. Their teamwork and organization showed intelligence that could not be denied. Commander Zephnal studied the human message for an hour before calling Kethvar back. These patterns could be natural phenomena that the beasts simply repeated without understanding. Many animals can mimic sounds they hear. "What about the mathematics, Commander? What about the artistic expressions?" "Coincidence and mimicry," Zephnal said firmly. I will not cancel a profitable hunting operation based on your fantasies about animal intelligence. The hunt begins tomorrow as planned. Kethavar felt sick. He knew the commander was wrong, but Zephanol had the authority to ignore any evidence that threatened the mission's profits. In the human cell, Pete had finally broken through to the alien communication system again. This time he was able to access more than just the transmission array. He found what looked like the ship's internal communication network. I think I can listen to their conversations, Pete whispered to Carl Evans. They connected to the alien communication channels and heard Kethavar talking to Commander Zephanol. The translation systems built into the ship automatically converted the alien language into English for the benefit of the prisoners. The humans listened in horror as they learned about the planned hunt. Rich aliens were coming to Earth to hunt humans for sport. The expedition commander refused to believe that humans were intelligent, despite all the evidence. We have to escape, Ryan Clark said quietly. If we can get back to Earth and warn everyone, maybe we can stop this. Pete worked frantically on the door controls while the others gathered everything they might need. Helen Ross, who was a teacher, helped organize their escape plan. Steve Miller, who worked as a mechanic, found tools they could use to defend themselves. Beth Adams discovered something important while searching through alien equipment they had found. Look at this, she said, holding up a small device. I think it might be a translator. Pete examined the device and figured out how to activate it. Suddenly, they could understand all the alien conversations happening throughout the ship. They learned about the ship's layout, the location of escape pods, and most importantly, they discovered that one alien was on their side. Kethavar is trying to help us, Carl said after listening to more conversations. He knows we are intelligent, but his commander will not listen. Then we need to help him help us, Pete said. If we can prove our intelligence directly to the alien leadership, maybe we can stop this hunting operation. The humans worked together to plan their escape. They would break out of their cell, find Kethavar, and force a direct confrontation with the alien commander. It was dangerous, but they had no choice. Just as Pete finished opening the door lock, alarms began ringing throughout the ship. Emergency lights flashed red, and alien voices spoke urgently over the communication system. What is happening? Beth asked. Pete listened to the alien conversations through their stolen translator. More human ships are approaching from Earth. It sounds like your planet is sending a military response. On Earth, General Rick Taylor had not waited for a peaceful solution. While the scientists tried to communicate with the aliens, he had ordered every available military asset to prepare for war. Fighter jets, missiles, and space defense systems were all aimed at the alien ship. The general knew that humans were outmatched by alien technology, but he would not let his people be hunted like animals without a fight. Commander Zephanol received reports of human military activity and became angry. See? These beasts are aggressive and dangerous. This proves they are not intelligent beings but violent animals that must be controlled. But Kethavar saw something different in the human response. The creatures were defending their home and their people. They were showing courage and determination in the face of overwhelming odds. These were not the actions of mindless beasts, but of intelligent beings fighting for their survival. The moment of truth had arrived. In the next few hours, either humans and aliens would find a way to communicate as equals, or the first interstellar war would begin. Everything depended on 6 brave humans trapped on an alien ship and 1 alien scientist who dared to believe in the intelligence of a species his people had dismissed as animals. Pete Johnson led the 6 humans through the alien ship's corridors. They moved quietly, using the stolen translator to understand the alien voices around them. The ship was in chaos as the crew prepared for the approaching human military forces. This way, Pete whispered, following the directions they had learned from listening to alien communications. Kethavar's laboratory is 3 levels up. They climbed through maintenance shafts and empty corridors, avoiding the busy areas where alien crew members rushed back and forth. Helen Ross helped keep everyone calm, while Steve Miller found tools they could use if they had to fight. When they reached Kethavar's laboratory, they found the alien scientist staring at his screens in despair. He was watching the human military ships approach while listening to Commander Zephnal's angry orders to prepare weapons. Pete knocked softly on the laboratory door. Kethavar turned around in surprise and saw the 6 humans standing in his doorway. "How did you escape?" Kethavar asked in his own language. Pete held up the translator device. "We can understand you now," he said, "and we know you have been trying to help us." Kethavar looked at the humans with new eyes. They had escaped from a locked cell, navigated through an alien ship, and found his laboratory. These were not the actions of simple animals. "Your people are coming to fight us," Kethavar said sadly. "Commander Zephnal thinks this proves humans are violent beasts. He will not listen to reason." "Then we have to make him listen," Beth Adams said. "Take us to him. Let us talk to him directly." Kethavar was afraid, but he knew the humans were right. This might be the last chance to prevent a war between 2 intelligent species. They walked together to the ship's command center. Alien crew members stared in shock as they saw the human prisoners walking free beside Kethavar. Some reached for weapons, but Kethavar told them to stay back. Commander Zephnal stood at the center of the command room giving orders to prepare for battle. When he saw Kethavar enter with the escaped humans, his face filled with rage. "What is the meaning of this?" Zephnal demanded. "Why are the specimens not in their cage?" "Because they are not specimens," Kethavar said bravely. "They are intelligent beings who deserve our respect." Pete stepped forward and activated the translator so all the aliens could understand him. "Commander, we do not want to fight you. We came in peace hoping to communicate with another intelligent species, but you treated us like animals." "You are animals," Zephnal said coldly. "Dangerous beasts that must be controlled or destroyed." Carl Evans, the former radio operator, moved to stand beside Pete. "We build cities and create art. We explore space and study the stars. We love our families and care for our children." "How does this make us animals?" Ryan Clark joined them. "We have sent messages to show you our mathematics and music. We have demonstrated our intelligence in every way we can. What more proof do you need?" Commander Zephnal was about to respond when alarms sounded throughout the ship. The human military forces had arrived and were demanding the return of their people. On the main screen, they could see General Rick Taylor's face speaking from the lead human ship. "This is General Taylor of Earth Defense Command. You have taken our citizens without permission. Return them immediately or face the consequences." "See," Zephnal said to his crew. "These beasts threaten us with violence. They prove their savage nature." But Pete had an idea. He asked Kethavar to open a communication channel so he could speak to General Taylor. "General, this is Pete Johnson. We are alive and safe for now. But there has been a terrible misunderstanding. These aliens thought we were not intelligent. Some of them still believe that." General Taylor's expression softened when he heard Pete's voice. "Are you hurt? Are the others with you?" "We are all here and unhurt. General, please do not attack. Give us a chance to solve this peacefully. These aliens are not evil, they are just confused about what humans really are." Dr. Lisa Martinez appeared on the screen beside General Taylor. "Pete, we have been trying to communicate with them. We sent mathematical proofs and artistic expressions." "We heard your message," Beth Adams said. "It was beautiful. But their commander thinks we are just copying sounds without understanding them." Helen Ross had an idea. "What if we show them something that only intelligent beings can do? Something that requires creativity and problem solving?" Steve Miller nodded. "Like building something new using their own technology?" Pete looked around the alien command center and saw the opportunity they needed. "Kethavar, can you give us access to your ship's computer systems? I want to show your commander something that no animal could do." Kethavar hesitated, but then activated a workstation for Pete to use. The other humans gathered around to help, while the alien crew watched in fascination. Working together, the 6 humans began to reprogram the alien computer systems. Pete handled the technical work while Carl managed communications. Ryan and Beth organized their efforts while Helen and Steve provided creative ideas. In 30 minutes, they had created something amazing. Using alien technology and programming, languages they had never seen before, The humans built a virtual reality simulation that showed the history of human civilization. The simulation displayed human cities growing from small villages into great metropolises. It showed humans creating art, music, literature, and science. It demonstrated human exploration of their own planet and their first steps into space. Most importantly, it showed humans working together to solve problems, care for each other, and build a better world for their children. Commander Zephnal watched the simulation in stunned silence. No animal could create such a complex and beautiful presentation of their own culture. The evidence of human intelligence was overwhelming and undeniable. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Animals cannot do this." "We are not animals," Pete said gently. "We are intelligent beings just like you. We make mistakes sometimes and we are not perfect, but we think and feel and dream, just as you do." For a long moment nobody spoke. Then Commander Zephnal slowly walked over to the humans and looked at each of them carefully. "I have made a terrible error," he said finally. "My people have almost committed a great crime against your species. I am deeply sorry." 6 months later, Jake Thompson stood in the same forest where he had first heard strange sounds from the sky, but now the sounds were familiar. Human and alien ships worked together, sharing knowledge and building friendship between two worlds. Dr. Lisa Martinez had become Earth's first director of alien communications. Pete Johnson worked with alien engineers to develop new technologies that would help both species. The other former prisoners had become heroes and ambassadors. Kethvar lived on Earth now, studying human culture and helping his people understand the incredible diversity of intelligent life in the universe. He had learned to love human music and art, forms of expression his own people had never developed. The hunting preserve was never built. Instead, Earth became the first joint human-alien research center where two species worked together to explore the mysteries of the cosmos. And in a small office in Montana, Dr. Lisa Martinez continued to listen to signals from space, knowing that somewhere among the stars, other intelligent beings were waiting to be discovered and welcomed into the growing community of thinking minds.